Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. Jeremie, and today I'll be walking you through how to use the Comparative Historical Analysis tool. The content we'll be using will be from Grade 10, Unit 1 about early modern empires, and our objective is to learn how to actually use this tool to analyze and categorize similarities and differences. So what does the tool look like? There are 5 steps to this tool. There's gathering information, there's categorizing information, identifying categories for comparison, comparing the cases once you have done that, and then the actual comparative analysis. I'll go over each step in the next couple of minutes, but why would we even want to introduce this tool to students? A great reason to use this tool is that comparing is a great way to understand historical topics, particularly seeing how things in history are similar and also different gives a more nuance and a really good perspective on history for students. And by engaging them in comparative analysis, we give them another skill in their toolkit to really dive deep into material. So let's go into the steps to see what we will do with this tool. So step 1, and I'm using the content from the early modern comparison of the Tokugawa shogunate and the Bourbon dynasty that can be found in Unit 1 in Grade 10. Step 1 is going to list major facts or points about the 2 empires I have chosen here. You could use this tool for anything. So you could do, if for instance, if you were doing a decolonization, you could have 2 different decolonized nations. So this is a very versatile tool. But you would list the major facts and points in step 1 that you could think of and record them just based on their understanding. So I would think of step 1 as the brainstorming step. And then once the students have done their brainstorming step, step 2 is now to see, well, now that I have all these facts, now that I have all this evidence, what categories, what groupings can I do to actually like put this brainstorming evidence together? So they're asking them to make sense of the information that they brainstormed in step 1. So they would group the facts, in our case here, they'd group the facts about the empires into different categories. And this is actually also going to be a great way to get them to start thinking about comparing, because as they make categories in one, they might start seeing categories in another, their other case study as well. So in step 3, though, we're going to ask them to actually look at the categories that they had for each of the case studies in step 2. And then they're going to choose one category that they notice that both of the case studies, in our case here, the empires, had in common. So in step 3, they're going to identify what category they want to focus on the most. And this is actually a really good thing to have students engage in. We can see tons of themes, tons of categories throughout history, but we don't have to study all of them to really understand something. So this is a great way to get students to realize, well, you could choose one particular aspect and dive deeper into them. And then they do that in step 4. In step 4, they're going to take their category and then they're going to list, well, in this regard, the Tokugawa shogunate was very different. In this regard, the Tokugawa and the Tokugawa shogunate and the Bourbon dynasty were similar. And then they could do here the differences in this one category that the Bourbon dynasty had. You could also do the step 4 if your students are more visually inclined. You could make that a Venn diagram and have them do, well, this is how the Tokugawa shogunate looked like for this category. This is what they share in between. And then this is what the Bourbon dynasty looks like. So you could really manipulate this and make it work for your students. And now what they're going to do, this is the part where they now do the historical comparative analysis. Students have identified things about the empires in this case. They have looked at categories to think of where evidence fit, and they've also now compared two empires here based on that one category. So step 5, and this is going to be based on whatever historical question you give them, they're going to use the evidence from steps 1 through 4 to construct a claim. And it's going to be a comparative claim where they compare their case studies within the category that they chose. So, and then they would be asked to write at least 2 comparative statements that consider both similarities and differences, because we want the students to not only see how things are similar, but also that within just one category that they also could be dissimilar. And one way we could help them really write this historical analysis is to look at some sentence starters. In the historical toolkit for grade 10, we actually have the language of comparison chart that could help you and the students figure out how do we start crafting our comparative sentences. And one of the things here, this is just one part of it, but we have comparative thesis starters for them to start their claim. And we also have some sentence starters just in case they're not sure of how to really start analyzing and making those statements. Also in the language of comparison chart, we have key words, key comparative words that they might want to use. So similarly, or on the other hand, or counter. So there are several different ways to engage in comparative work. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you use this tool. It is a great way to get students to look at history in a very comparative way. Have a great one.